in Madison Square Garden. Jammed to the rafters, a title on the line in the Big East. Pittsburgh and Georgetown getting set to square off for the Big East Championship at an automatic bid. It ought to be an electric night in New York City.
Lights of Saturday night in New York City, and the spotlight is on Madison Square Garden, the home for the Big East Championship for the 25th consecutive year. Who will step up and claim the crown? Out of 12, 2 remain, and what they both want is the same.
So incredible, unforgettable. If you battle us, find out it's just not winnable. So invincible, just for principle. We let you go, but you seem unconvincible. Step up, cause we're ready to step on anybody in our way, and our game is Teflon.
Pittsburgh is heating up. The Panthers already know how to step up in New York. This kid is something else. Jeff Green wants to add to the Hoyas' history.
Make a move, you ain't ready to fill my shoes. You wanna try, but you ain't paid no dues. Ride high, homie, please don't get it confused. We never lose, we never lose. Make a move, you ain't ready to fill my shoes. You wanna try, but you ain't paid no dues. Ride high, homie, please don't get it confused. We never lose, we never lose.
This is it. Time to come through. Step up tonight. Your dreams come true. The Saturday night of Championship Week means one thing and one thing only in this town. The final of the Big East Championship. It is Georgetown and Pittsburgh battling for conference supremacy in front of a packed house here inside Madison Square Garden. Welcome to our continuing coverage of Championship Week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. This is the final of the Big East Championship presented by Aeropostale. And the two teams that a lot of people expected to be here are here tonight. Pittsburgh and Georgetown meeting in the final. How did they get here? Well, Georgetown began in the quarterfinals on Thursday, got out to a 26-2 lead on Villanova, hung on thanks to the big guy Roy Hibbert to beat the Wildcats by 5. Last night in a classic, as good a game as there has been in this tournament in many, many years. 84-82. Russell Carter, who had a big night, misses a late 3. Jeff Green, a monster night for the Hoyas. They beat the Irish. Pittsburgh got 22 points and 10 rebounds from Aaron Gray in a 10-point win over Marquette in their quarterfinal game. Gray had a lot of foul trouble last night. Antonio Gray stepped up large, a career-high 23 as Pittsburgh beat Louisville. Hi, everybody. Dan Shulman and Len Elmore. Glad to have you along with us for what should be a great night of basketball here in New York. Two great teams, and I know, Len, you think a lot of similarities between these two teams.
Well, similar indeed. Both of these teams split 2 games during the regular season, each winning at home. And the similarity begins with defense. The focus on D among the leaders in field goal percentage defense and three-point field goal percentage defense. They've got quality big men who can dominate inside and give you scoring inside, plus a complementary cast that provides great cohesiveness. So what's the difference? The difference maker, Jeff Green, Big East Player of the Year, 6'9" junior, defensively has great intelligence, understands the game, excellent anticipation. Also, you think he's a passer on the perimeter? Think again. Terrific toughness inside as he fights off 2 guys here against Notre Dame, and that's what he provides inside. When they need a rebound, he can get it. And scoring, he is the go-to guy. When you need points, Georgetown looks for Green.
As the atmosphere continues to build here inside the Garden, let's bring you to our Star Watch presented by American Century. Aaron Gray, as you can see, limited by foul trouble last night. They'll need a big night from him tonight against the Hoyas. Jeff Green, a career-high 30 points to go with a dozen rebounds, the game-winning basket last night in the win over Notre Dame. A phenomenal performance by Jeff Green. The supporting cast, the rest of the starting lineups. We begin with Pittsburgh in the front court. Gray is joined by fifth-year senior Levon Kendall and Mike Cook, who's had 2 very strong games in this tournament. In the backcourt, Levance Fields, who had a great game taking care of the ball last night, didn't turn it over. Antonio Graves, who knocked down those full 4 second-half threes. For Georgetown, what size up front? 6'9" Green, 7'2" Hibbert, 6'8" Summers. In the backcourt, Jesse Sapp is the primary point guard. Jonathan Wallace does a lot of the ball handling as well, and he is a sharpshooter, one of the best shooters in the Big East. For more on tonight's big matchup here in New York, let's go to Mark Jones. Jonesy?
Yeah, guys, Pittsburgh playing in this title game for the 6th time in the last 7 years, but for their efforts, they just have one title ring to show for it going into the game tonight. Levon Kendall is the last remaining link from that 2003 championship team, and he told me that his title ring is prominently displayed in the home that he shares with his teammate Aaron Gray, and he says there's not a day that doesn't go by that Gray doesn't, before he leaves the house, take a long-lasting look at that ring and then talk about winning his first this year. Dan?
All right, Mark, thank you very much. Tonight's final of the Big East Championship, presented by Aeropostale, is available on ESPN HD. So Pittsburgh, as you saw here, for the 6th time in the last 7 years. Georgetown hasn't been here since '96, hasn't won it since '89. Pittsburgh with the first possession of the night. The two teams split their regular season meetings, each winning at home. Cook from Kendall. Pittsburgh strikes first.
Well, again, we talked about the complementary cast, and even though Aaron Gray is the center of attention for Pitt, guys like Mike Cook and others have the capability of finding themselves getting open. And both teams play solid man-to-man defense. You're not going to see a whole lot of wrinkles out here. And really, it's going to be about man-on-man who can get the job done.
Very patient offense for Georgetown. Looking for clean shots, maybe a backdoor cut or two. Again, the two teams very familiar with one another, but how do you stop that? The running hook from Jeff Green.
The difference maker gets off to a good start. And again, Levon Kendall, pretty good defender. But Jeff Green, very mobile on the wing as well as at top.
And Len, Green generally a very unselfish player, but last night it was as if he sensed his team needed him to take over the game to win that game.
Well, again, that's part of the intelligence. As John Thompson III will consistently say, Jeff Green, the most intelligent player he's ever coached. And that's a good understanding of the game. You know, unselfishness goes only so far. When it gets down to the critical moments, you got to go with your best.
Let's keep an eye on the battle of the big guys. Two legitimate low-post 7-footers. Gray got caught coming out on the screen and roll and could not recover in time. Hibbert gets the dunk.
Well, first of all, Roy Hibbert, very mobile, obviously slips that screen very nicely. And Aaron Gray, when he steps outside throughout this tournament, has had difficulty recovering. You hedge, you got to get back.
DeJuan Summers the foul. Let's take another look.
You see Gray hedging out there, but nobody, picks up Roy Hibbert. If Aaron Gray is going to step out on these screens, he's got to have some coverage in the middle.
Two coaches who have really had a great run at their respective programs. John Thompson III in his 3rd year as the head coach of Georgetown has gone from the NIT to an NCAA team that gave Florida a heck of a go in the tournament last year. Now to a team that many think is a legitimate contender to get to the Final Four. And there's some discussion internally here in the building, and we'll talk about this as time permits. Does Georgetown have a shot at a 1 seed if they win this game tonight? You'll get differing opinions on that, but certainly both of these teams are in consideration for a 2.
You look at Georgetown right now trying to establish Roy Hibbert.
Summers, Cook knocks it away and comes up with a loose ball. Nice look ahead to Fields.
High screens worked once before. Look for Pittsburgh to try to do some of the same to Roy Hibbert.
Well, Pittsburgh very lucky there. Fields didn't give Gray much of an opportunity to receive that pass. Kendall the dump down to the big guy. Jump hook by Gray, a little strong. Rebound Hibbert.
And Dan, what I'm noticing, Aaron Gray now twice in possession. He's gone to the jump hook, but he's kind of fading away, and I think Roy Hibbert's length bothers him. Aaron Gray is accustomed to playing guys smaller than he is. And when you play a guy your size or bigger, you have some difficulty adjusting.
Great passing by the Hoyas. Green the assist, Sapp the basket, and a good start for Georgetown.
But the way Aaron Gray has to adjust is not to fade away, but use those broad shoulders and force the issue.
Kendall with the 16-footer. Gray weak side rebound, and he missed one in close. By the way, the big guys, Gray and Hibbert, have basically, statistically, played each other to a standstill in the two meetings this season. Neither one had a huge game in either game.
Well, that's what you call canceling each other out.
And the foul will be on Cook of Pittsburgh, and he knew it. We talked about what John Thompson III has done at Georgetown. How about the job Jamie Dixon has done at Pittsburgh? His fourth season, his third time as the head coach in the championship game of the Big East tournament. Pittsburgh has truly become one of the first teams you think about when you think about the supremacy of this league.
And Jamie Dixon doesn't get nearly as much credit as he should, considering his record since he took over. But a lot of that is really intentional. He wants the focus to be on his players and not him.
Gray fouls Hibbert inside. 6-2 start for Georgetown early in this game. It's showtime in New York.
I got a showtime for you right here. All right. I get the...
We had that kind of a finish last night in the Notre Dame-Georgetown game, hoping for that hotly contested game here tonight. Let's take a look at some of the early things Aaron Gray is dealing with in this game, Lance.
Well, first of all, you know foul trouble on the mind of Aaron Gray. Got an early foul trouble yesterday. Really not aggressive on the screen. And when he does get aggressive, he's got to get help from the weak side as well as recover quickly. And again, that was the time on that play he should have stepped out more in the shooting range of Georgetown, but he didn't. So Aaron Gray has got to focus on sound fundamental principles and not worry about whether he's getting foul trouble or not. If he's doing the right thing defensively in the right position, the odds are he won't be in foul trouble.
Hibbert misses the first. Did not have a big night against Notre Dame. Kind of a tough matchup for him. Figures to be a lot more important tonight against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh survived against Louisville, even though Aaron Gray was badly limited by foul trouble. Only played 13 minutes. Kendall the jumper to make it a two-point game. But you would imagine that each of these coaches wants to get 30 minutes out of their big guys here tonight.
Oh, there's no question about it. The difference in the situation was that Louisville pretty much with 15 turnovers and some bad shots down the stretch, you know, they kind of had their wounds self-inflicted. Georgetown is not that kind of team. They will not beat themselves.
Remember, Gray picked up a foul just before that last time out. When it's crunch time, the ball finds Green. Hibbert the offensive rebound and right back up and in.
Well, again, Aaron Gray has got to turn. He's got to block out Roy Hibbert. When you're playing a guy your size with your capabilities, you've got to focus on stopping him first.
This time, Gray slips the screen and draws the foul on Hibbert. For more, let's go to Mark Jones.
Guys, Hibbert says when he first got to Georgetown, he could barely do one push-up. That's right, one push-up. And Patrick Ewing told me yesterday that he's never seen a big guy develop as quickly as Hibbert has over the last 3 years. Actually, it was 3 years ago that Ewing says that he last played against Hibbert when he was still in high school. But it all goes back to the wonderful lineage they have of bigs at Georgetown and how they really have an each one teach one philosophy. Ewing taught Zoe taught Dikembe. Dikembe took care of Othello Harrington, and Harrington took care of Mike Sweetney, and now it's Hibbert's turn in that wonderful lineage, guys.
Well, a very tight-knit fraternity of the Georgetown basketball program. Patrick Ewing Sr. has enjoyed watching Patrick Ewing Jr. thrive here the last couple of days. There's Patrick Sr. Big John Thompson II is here in the house tonight again. Sam Young's coming to the game along with Ronald Ramon for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, a team that's 9 deep, get great production off the bench. Summers the miss and the follow. Missed it again. Gray battling hard. Loose ball to Fields.
And there's the Aaron Gray that you expected in there tenaciously going after rebounds instead of standing and watching.
Ramon, a terrific outside shooter for the Panthers. Trying to get the ball inside to Gray.
I think Aaron Gray has found his niche going baseline, using those big shoulders to explode. Hard for Roy Hibbert to stop if he could ever get the ball.
Jesse Sapp, good perimeter defender, comes up with a steal.
And that perimeter defense getting on ball and putting pressure on him really hurts the ability to throw the ball inside.
Sapp misses the three. Long rebound to the Panthers. This does not figure to be a game that's going to get up into the 80s. It figures to be a physical, methodical kind of game between these two teams.
There he goes baseline, and that's got to power up a little bit more, but that's where Aaron Gray is going to have some success if he goes to the basket and not fades away. Roy Hibbert did a great job, though, of standing his ground and not leaving his feet and just raising his arm to contest.
Ray 0 for 4 in the early going. Man. Hibbert with the running left-handed hook. 6 early points for Hibbert.
The thing about Roy Hibbert and the reason for his tremendous growth is he started playing basketball late and he never developed bad habits. Everything that he was taught was fundamentally sound, and because he didn't have enough time to develop the bad habits, he does everything with both hands.
Sam Young fouled by Jeff Green. Let's revisit the battle of the big guys.
Now watch Aaron Gray right here with the fake, but he fades towards the baseline instead of goes up towards the basket, and therefore he doesn't get the foul. But watch Roy Hibbert with the left hand. Just terrific fundamentals with that hook. I'd love to see more guys with that baby hook.
You saw Gray sitting down. Kendall has returned. Hibbert remains in the game. A guy who generally plays between 25 and 28 minutes for the Hoyas.
And you look at Georgetown goes to the 2-3 zone with Aaron Gray out of the ball game.
And Ramon makes him pay.
And the reason why Georgetown went to the 2-3 is really to protect Roy Hibbert. With LeVon Kendall out there who can roam the perimeter, it would force Hibbert to come out there and guard him.
If you're thinking of recent Pittsburgh teams, big, rugged, physical, they're still that. But they've got some guards who can really shoot the ball like Ramon.
Well, you know, again, you got to give something, and if you're going to protect Roy Hibbert by playing zone, you've got to be able to cover shooters. Georgetown had a bit of a problem with doing that early in the Notre Dame game last night. Ultimately decided they were going to go man the whole way. Roy Hibbert got limited time, but it paid off.
Hibbert sits down right now, and Patrick Ewing Jr. comes in. Had his best game in a Georgetown uniform last night against the Irish. 15 points and great energy off the bench. Actually started the second half because he was playing so well, and the matchups dictated it. Green, left hand, Len.
That's what I'm talking about. Jeff Green has been playing for a while, but he's player of the year. And you can expect that left from him.
Now, he was 23rd in the Big East in scoring, and nobody said boo when he was named player of the year. Everybody thought it was a great choice, the best player on the best team, but now he's become much more of a scorer the last couple of nights as well, and we're truly seeing how special he is.
Well, they can deploy him where they need to, and he does fulfill what the needs are. And you talk about voting for player of the year, they were voted on by coaches.
Yeah.
And coaches know that when they have to game plan for one single guy, night in, night out, that he's the man.
Wallace driving on Ramon. Doesn't go. Summers misses a chippy. And the rebound comes down to the Panthers, who incidentally won the rebounding battle in both regular season games with Georgetown. Out of bounds to the Hoyas, an early 4-point lead for Georgetown, and the player of the year is off to a good start here in the final of the Big East Championship. Back in New York City, the Big East Championship, the final. Big East Championship presented by Aeropostale. Georgetown leading Pittsburgh by 4. This is the 25th consecutive year that the Big East tournament has been held inside Madison Square Garden, the longest running tournament in any one venue in Division I history. Last time that Georgetown won the Big East Championship, 1989, did it against Syracuse. Alonzo Mourning scored 21 points. The Hoyas won their 6th Big East Championship. That was in '89. They haven't won one since. Of course, Big John Thompson II, was the head coach for all 6 of those Big East tournament champions. Georgetown and Connecticut each have won 6, the most of any team in the history of this league. Pittsburgh won 1 4 years ago, beating Connecticut.
Well, if they're going to win again, they have to continue what they're doing. Georgetown winning the battle of points in the paint. 10 for Georgetown, 2 for Pittsburgh. Aaron Gray 0 for 4 from the field with only 1 rebound. Not effective. Obviously, Roy Hibbert's defense has played a role in that.
Pete Benjamin into the game for the first time for Pittsburgh. Jeremiah Rivers, Doc Rivers' son, on the floor for the first time for Georgetown. Pittsburgh goes zone. Kendall in the middle. Green turned his back, and Ewing says, my bad on the pass, as the Hoyas turn it over.
Well, the reason Green turned his back is because Patrick Ewing Jr. started to raise up as though he was going to shoot a jumper. And Jeff Green, the consummate offensive rebounder, looking for position. You never want to get in the air, faking a shot, and then try to pass unless you know the receiver's ready.
Three-pointer not there for Young. It'll be interesting strategically when there will be times when both 7-footers are in the game, times when one or the other is in the game, and times like now when neither one is in the game. And we'll see how the coaches play it in the different situations.
Right now, Pittsburgh's come out of the zone playing man-to-man, so they're trying to change defenses, and Georgetown recognizes it, but there's coverage in the middle.
That was 6'3" Graves blocking the shot of 6'8" Summers. Good outside shooters in the game for Pittsburgh. Graves a miss. And the rebound down to the Hoyas. Rivers with a nice play to keep that ball in bounds. Well, Saps come close twice in that sequence to getting called for a carry, I think.
Trying to maneuver to use that high screen. Antonio Graves playing him very tightly, making it difficult to screen. That time you go through the screen, daring Sapp to shoot the jumper.
Green trying to back down Kendall. Help from Benjamin. And Benjamin commits the foul. Just reached in and grabbed the arm of Green. Well, Aaron Gray is getting ready to check back into the game for Pittsburgh. It has been a slow beginning for Gray tonight, whereas Hibbert has done very well.
Well, I'll tell you, Roy Hibbert has been the beneficiary of getting passes on the move, setting high screens, rolling to the basket, things that make it difficult for the opponents to find a way to guard the big guy. With Aaron Gray, he's been straight post-ups, throw it down into him, and let him go one-on-one with Roy Hibbert. And so far, Aaron Gray has kind of shied away from contact with Roy Hibbert. He's got to be more assertive, going to the basket instead of fading to the baseline or fading away.
Each of Gray and Hibbert has 1 foul. Hibbert remains on the bench as Gray comes back into the game. Gray will be defended by Ewing, who's giving up a fair bit of size.
And if I'm Pittsburgh, this is where I make a concentrated effort. They go to him.
Yeah. Oftentimes, Gray gets some of his best touches from Kendall. The big guys do a very nice job of passing from one to another in the Pittsburgh scheme. Kendall, the open jumper, and he knocks it down. And it's a 3 for Kendall, and now the officials, I think, are going to check. There was a little bit of hesitation as to whether that was a 2 or a 3, and Pat Driscoll, one of the officials tonight, races right over to the monitor to check.
Well, that's pretty good execution on the penetrating kick. Looked like the right foot, the right toe might have been on that blue line. But the only problem I have with that sequence, Dan, is that they didn't look at Aaron Gray once. And that's literally a mismatch with size and strength. Obviously, Roy Hibbert back in the ball game. That sequence wasn't lost on John Thompson III, who doesn't want to get exploited.
You can see the numbers on Kendall, kind of a typical Kendall game. Blue-collar guy who does a little bit of everything and makes a lot of the intangible plays for Pittsburgh. John Thompson III, as Len mentioned, has brought Hibbert back in, and it's been ruled that this shot was a 3-pointer.
Well, that right toe was very close to the line. Obviously, there must not have been indisputable evidence to the contrary.
So that makes it a 2-point game. We're past the midway point of the first half. The championship game here in New York. Elbow jumper from Green. And if there's a better player in this league or any other league at doing good things when he catches the ball in the middle of that zone, I don't know who it is.
Well, I'll tell you what, he is the prototype for breaking that 2-3. Once again, Aaron Gray just, instead of powering up, it's almost like he's aiming the ball.
And I think we've got a 3-second call going against Pittsburgh. Championship week continues on ESPN tomorrow with 2 conference championship games. First at 1 o'clock Eastern, NC State will try to get it done against Carolina and get the automatic bid in the ACC Tournament Championship game. Some may see alternate programming in ACC markets at 3 Eastern, the Big 12 Championship between Kansas and Texas.
That time on the short corner, Aaron Gray, much better defensive position. Really bothered Jeff Green. Look at Green battling for position with Gray, and Gray just backing him down. He still doesn't get a long, solid look.
Hibbert right now has Cook on him. Got mismatches all over the floor. Saved by Ramon. A dozen on the shot clock.
And that's more of an assertive move against the mismatch by Graves.
And Mike Cook, one of those sneaky guys, Len, he finds open space on the floor.
Yeah, Mike Cook is a guy that, quite honestly, could give Georgetown fits. In the first game between these two teams, he had 18 points. I guess they didn't know who he was.
Has averaged 14 and a half in his 2 games here in the Big East tournament. He's done very well to transfer from East Carolina. Rivers with an acrobatic move.
And that's going to go a long way for Georgetown. Jeremiah Rivers not really offensive-minded. And we marked that last night. You think he was watching the replay?
Averaging just 1.4 points per game. Gray the rebound, and he's fouled. And it's going to be on Rivers. A 4-point lead for the Hoyas here in the final. These teams are stepping up.
Step aside and mind your manners. Show respect for the champion banners. Come step up, cause we're ready to step on anybody in our way, and our game is Teflon.
On my new H3, I customized it. I got the marker lamps, the chrome, but I couldn't stop.
Welcome back to Madison Square Garden in New York City. It's the Big East Championship. It's the final of the Big East Championship presented by Aeropostale with Len Elmore and Mark Jones. I'm Dan Schulman. We've got Georgetown and Pittsburgh. That last foul not on Rivers. It was on Hibbert, his second. For Pittsburgh, they lost 3 games recently in the regular season to Marquette, to Louisville, and to Georgetown. Well, we asked Aaron Gray before the tournament what would it be like to have a chance to avenge all 3 of those defeats.
It's great. I don't think we'd want it any other way. To win this Big East championship this week, we're really going to have to earn it. Play against the Marquette team. If everything works out, play against a huge Louisville team who came into our house and kind of handled us a little bit, and then play a real tough Georgetown team. No, you never know how things are going to work out, but if everything goes as planned, that's how we'd want it.
Well, the Panthers never want to back away from a challenge. They beat Marquette in the quarters. They beat Louisville in the semis. Now they're trying to take out Georgetown in the final, and now we have a correction to our correction line. It was on Rivers, not on Hibbert. Some confusion at the scores table between number 5 and number 55. So the foul on Rivers. Hibbert remains in the game. He's still got only 1.
Yeah, I suspect that if it was Hibbert's second foul, he'd have a seat on the bench right now. Georgetown can ill afford to have him pick up a third, but it's moot. Again, both teams alternating between man and zone.
Gray knew he'd missed that one as soon as he let it go, but followed it to no avail.
The changes in defense on both ends kind of adds to the mental anxiety, kind of slows the attack of the opposing offense, and tries to create some confusion.
Green is out of the game right now for Georgetown. He played all 40 minutes last night. Ewing stripped on the drive by Kendall. 2-on-1 Pittsburgh. Oh, and Ramon lost the handle. Cook the pull-up jumper. Rebound Hoyas.
Missed opportunity in transition, and when you're playing against a team, as both of these teams are, with terrific defenses, when you get easy opportunities, 2-on-1 break, you can't afford not to come away with points.
Hibbert with good position. He's having his way with Aaron Gray right now. Hibbert's got 8 points. Gray's yet to make a field goal.
You give Hibbert credit, obviously, for the position and the score, but the perimeter passing, they're not hesitating. They're getting to him quick.
Georgetown with a 6-point lead, and in the battle of the bigs, round 1 to the Hoyas.
Been claimed, 3 more to go by the end of the evening for the NCAA tournament, all in thrilling fashion. Plenty of highlights on SportsCenter after the game for ESPN News always.
Reese Georgetown to the ball and a 6-point lead after the block by DeJuan Summers. Sapp over Gray with a banker.
One thing you got to be impressed with is Georgetown's use of the backboard. We've seen several times guys driving to the basket and instead of throwing up a teardrop or a floater, they're hitting that window.
Pittsburgh has shown itself to be a very resilient team. We're down 11 at the half to Louisville last night. Started the second half on a 20-2 run. Georgetown was down 14 to Notre Dame in the first half of their semifinal last night. But right now, Pittsburgh not getting anything inside from Gray, and the outside shots aren't falling. The three rattles in for DeJuan Summers, and it's the largest lead of the night for Georgetown. Timeout, Pittsburgh.
Take a look right here. It's really the effectiveness of Roy Hibbert that's forced Pittsburgh to have to adjust, and that's why the perimeter shooters are open. And look at the use of that glass. Fundamentally sound. That's why that window's drawn up there. You got to use it.
Hey, what's this all about? Where are we heading? Well, we're heading for Selection Sunday. 3 shows dedicated to the men's field, beginning at 5 Eastern, a preview of the 65-team bracket on ESPNU's Bracketology show, presented by Staples. At 6 Eastern, SportsCenter will start laying out the brackets for you, and then at 7 Eastern, back to review each bracket, more ESPNU Bracketology. Right now, I can guarantee you, both of these coaches and all of these players are thinking more about winning the Big East than where they're going to be seated, what region they're going to be in. They'll turn their attention to that tomorrow. But like all conferences, it's fierce in this league. And remember, Pittsburgh, this is the 6th time in the last 7 years they've been to the final. They've won only 1 of the previous 5. And amongst this group, Levon Kendall's the only guy with a ring, and he was redshirting that year, his first year. So none of them has been an active player on a Big East Tournament championship team. Great help by Summers. Look at the length. Look at the glide on DeJuan Summers.
And so far, Georgetown will not be denied. Even though Pittsburgh has presented some obstacles defensively and that's straight up man-to-man, guys are persevering, making quick passes into the post, making a strong move to the basket.
11-0 run for Georgetown. Jumper for Gray, not there. He has yet to really take the ball and go right to the chest of Roy Hibbert with a power move to the rim.
And Roy Hibbert is really making Aaron Gray become very uncomfortable down on the post. Turnaround jump shots, fadeaways.
Hibbert missed his follow. Gray comes down with a rebound. See if they look for the big guy again. Gray is 0 for 7 from the field. Book on the drive. Gray the rebound, and he missed 2 more times. And look at the frustration for Aaron Gray. So many opportunities around the rim. Meanwhile, the Hoyas, well, they're at 6-13 Georgetown. The Hoyas on an 11-0 run. And again, not to belabor the point, but one of the stories tonight, Aaron Gray just unable to put the ball in the basket tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And Aaron Gray is so important to the Pittsburgh offensive attack. But, you know, he seems to be rushing. Roy Hibbert has him in his back pocket, forcing him out where he doesn't want to be, not allowing him to explode to the basket. And then that results in anxiety on the part of Aaron Gray. The single most important thing that should come out of this timeout in that Pittsburgh huddle is to tell Aaron Gray, you don't have to win it by yourself. Calm down, play with us, and start playing basketball the way you know how.
Gray on the bench right now. Kendall defending Hibbert, who's had a terrific first half. We mentioned the 2 centers played each other to a virtual standstill in the regular season games. Not the case tonight as Hibbert takes advantage of the absence of Gray, and he's into double figures now with 10.
All right, Jamie Dixon cannot play Roy Hibbert one-on-one. They're going to have to go to a defense that's going to allow Pittsburgh to help out on him. Otherwise, he's going to have a field day.
Nice move inside by Sam Young, and that snaps a 13-0 run for the Hoyas.
You know, Pittsburgh's going to score, but the question is, can they stop Hibbert? Yeah, you know you can play solid man-to-man if you're Pittsburgh, and when a guy starts hurting as much as Roy Hibbert has, you've got to be able to defend him. I'm surprised Hibbert is as high as he is. He's got to go down low where he's been most effective.
Now he's down to the paint. 5 on the clock. Now he gets the ball, spins to the left.
Too easy. Too easy. And no help. Levon Kendall's left naked with no one coming to help him. Make somebody else beat you now.
Kendall 6'10", used to defending power forwards. Hibbert 7'2". Jamie Dixon's going to make a couple of subs, but Gray stays on the bench. Wallace the save, but into the hands of Kendall. No reset on the shot clock. Sam Young with his second consecutive field goal.
As I said before, it's not the offense that's the problem right now. You have guys that are putting the ball in the basket, but you can't exchange buckets with the score being what it is.
The lob for Green, and he's clubbed to the floor by Kendall.
Oh, we talked about Roy Hibbert's dominance, and the fact you take a look right here, Levon Kendall, as Roy Hibbert's going to step right into the paint, point-blank range. Levon Kendall all by himself. Who's helping? You can't allow Roy Hibbert to get the ball in front of the basket like that without bringing help. And then the gamble by Levon Kendall, you got to stay between Hibbert and the basket.
And now, ironically, Hibbert comes out as Gray comes back in. And the first move was made by John Thompson, and then Jamie Dixon, who did not have Gray at the scorer's table. It looks like when he saw Hibbert coming out, he put Gray back in.
Well, the reason is, obviously, let's get Aaron started. Hibbert's not there. Let him get started, get some confidence going so that when he does match up with him further on in this game, that he'll feel a lot better about himself.
Fields. Little strong off the glass. Keith Benjamin, a nice offensive rebound, and then he lost it to Green. As we mentioned earlier, Pittsburgh was down 11 to Louisville at halftime last night, came back to win. As Georgetown will use a timeout, they're down 13 right now to a very good and very disciplined Georgetown Hoya team. Hey, championship week continues on ESPN tomorrow with a couple of conference championship games at 1 o'clock Eastern down in Tampa, North Carolina against NC State, Sidney Lowe's team. Trying to run right through the ACC tournament and into the NCAA tournament. Then the Big 12 championship, Texas and Kansas in the Phillips 66 Big 12 conference championship game. Roy Hibbert, who's just checked back in, is having himself quite a night.
Well, the single most important thing for both of these teams was to establish their big guys inside. That allows you to play inside out. And Roy Hibbert, again, having a field day. Aaron Gray not on top of his game on either end of the floor. Pittsburgh forced to guard Hibbert with Levon Kendall, and that's a mismatch. And more importantly, Pittsburgh deciding to allow Roy Hibbert to go one-on-one instead of providing some help.
Let's get more now with Mark Jones.
Guys, I was speaking with a rival Big East coach yesterday, and he told me that Georgetown is the best coach team in the league. They are so unselfish. He notes that every time that they have played against Georgetown, you never hear any of their players complaining about not getting theirs on offense. That's quite an endorsement, guys. Back to you.
And JT3 has brought a lot of the Princeton principles with him to Georgetown, but he's got a different level of talent. More size and athleticism here, and they have really embraced the system with great results. Hibbert, the rebound, and another high percentage shot for the big guy.
Well, he's in the zone right now, baby. He is playing, moving his feet, getting to the position, doing all the things great big men do.
14 and 7 in the first half for Hibbert. He's over his average in both points and rebounds in the first half. Tough shot by Graves. Pitt needed it, didn't get it. The first half comes to a close. A dominant performance by Roy Hibbert. 14.7 rebounds. Pittsburgh with a big comeback last night to beat Louisville. They're down 15 right now to the Hoyas at halftime.
We talked about Roy Hibbert being in the zone. Even here, as Pittsburgh plays zone, Hibbert is just not allowing himself to stand still and watch the action. He is active as gets.
Let's go to Mark Jones with John Thompson III.
Coach Hibbert with 14.7 rebounds at the break. Why is he such a different player tonight as opposed to last night?
I'm not sure. I mean, we're getting a few lucky bounces, and we're fortunate that he's getting open. We can't go into the second half anticipating that's going to happen.
Last night, Pittsburgh showed the ability to storm out of the locker room and come back. How do you close this thing out?
Close it out. We got a whole nother half a ball to play. We just have to keep trying to get stops and keep trying to get quality shots. I mean, we got a whole nother half of ball to play, and as you said, they're too good a team, they're too experienced, they're too poised to be thinking about closing it out.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you.
Guys, back to you.
All right, Mark, you can hear the respect JT3 has for Pittsburgh. Big John looking on as well. So far, so good. If you're a Hoya fan, up 15 at the break thanks to a big half from Roy Hibbert. Here's Reese Davis with a Cisco.
So incredible, unforgettable. If you battle us, find out it's just not winnable. We step up because we're ready to step on anybody in our way, and our game is Teflon.
Welcome back to New York City. Our continuing coverage of Championship Week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. The final of the Big East Championship from New York. The Big East Championship presented by Aeropostale in a fairly one-sided first half. The number 1 seed, Georgetown, leading the number 3 seed, Pittsburgh, 32-17. As we welcome you back inside the Garden Len, is it an oversimplification to say that Georgetown's winning by this much because they're winning the battle of the big guys by that much?
Absolutely. It's a major contrast between confidence and frustration. The confidence, Roy Hibbert, who is just so active right now, playing as though he were possessed and using every move in his arsenal. The frustration, Aaron Gray fading away. He looks tentative and almost intimidated as he tries to get something going inside. All year long, Pitt has thrived on the inside-out game, and an ineffective Aaron Gray really affects their perimeter game as well. You take a look at the shooting percentages, and right here, Aaron Gray 0 for 9 from the field, and he's got to be able to start to establish something early for Pitt. Otherwise, they're going to go away from him.
I'm not saying when you ever had one of those nights, but if you ever had one of those nights, how do you regroup mentally at halftime to come out for a big second half?
Recognize it can't get any worse. That's what it comes down to. Play my game and see what happens. As far as Pitt is concerned, they're going to have to go to Aaron Gray one more time to see what he gives them. And if he gives them nothing, then they're going to have to start moving away from him.
Now, John Cal and Mike Kitts are going to talk it over to decide who should get the basketball, and they'll give it to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just 17 points in the first half. Their lowest scoring game of the season was 53 on 2 different occasions, one of them at Georgetown.
And again, look for them to look for Aaron Gray, try to establish him one more time to see if he has anything as far as aggressiveness in him.
Graves has some aggressiveness in him. Remember, Pittsburgh down 11 to Louisville at halftime last night, came back to win.
And remember, Georgetown with a terrific lead over Villanova, and Villanova came back in their game, outscored them the second half by 14.
Hibbert is fouled by Kendall. Time now to take a look at our first half stats presented by Guinness. And Pittsburgh shooting a woeful 24% from the field. They were beaten on the boards and the points in the paint, most of that Roy Hibbert.
And that 24% is not just Aaron Gray, but Aaron Gray's ineffectiveness inside has really hurt the inside-out game of Pittsburgh. They're a team that likes to flow into their three-pointers from passes from Gray when defenses shift. Right now, the way Gray's playing, Georgetown doesn't have to adjust.
Hibbert has almost as many points as the Panthers do as a group. Sweet stroke from the line as he knocks him down. There are games when Hibbert is nearly invisible. A couple of regular season games against Villanova come to mind, and there are other games where he's absolutely dominant. Fields only took 1 shot in the first half. Did not make a shot last night against Louisville, although he had a great floor game, 7 assists, no turnovers. Knocked away by Green, but it's going to be off Green and back to Pittsburgh, I believe. No, Pat Driscoll says it'll be Georgetown ball as we bring in Mark Jones.
Guys, I spoke with Jamie Dixon, the head coach of Pittsburgh, at halftime. He said that they were happy with the shots that they got offensively. They just have to start making some shots, albeit they did shoot 24%. I asked him about Aaron Gray. How do you get him off? He said he's the main culprit that's got to start making some shots. And remember that yesterday, Jamie Dixon told me that he revealed a side of himself at halftime that his team hadn't seen before. Guys?
Might have been revealed again here tonight. We remember a game from last year's Big East tournament when Aaron Gray really struggled around the rim, and after the fact he said, it came down to conditioning. When I'm a little tired, when my legs aren't strong, I don't finish as well as I should. Third game in as many nights as Gray and Hibbert come together. Gray got scraped, but I think Gray's the one called for the foul.
Well, we told you this would be a physical game, and look at Aaron Gray trying to get position, trying to be at least a bother to Roy Hibbert.
The foul was the second on Gray. And now Cook has picked up a foul as Summers will head to the line. Summers just a freshman playing in the front court. Hibbert and Green get all the attention, but this guy's got an awfully bright future. Look at what he did last night against the Irish.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good perimeter shot. Very active.
And with Patrick Ewing, their front court reserve, what a great rotation. John Thompson III has 4 big guys for 3 spots.
Now, this is the third possession now that Pittsburgh has run, and it's almost as though they weren't looking for Aaron Gray. There he is right there, and they got to establish him once. Look at that block.
Cook off balance, missed the follow.
Well, I can tell you right now, I don't think Pitt is going to go back into Aaron Gray often anymore. Aaron Gray is going to start setting picks. He's going to have to start getting weak side offensive rebounds to make up the bulk of his offense. His teammates are probably going to now start to look for other options.
They've got some perimeter shooters, but Pittsburgh shooters, with the exception of the second half of last night's game, have cooled off the last couple of weeks. Again, Hibbert setting up down low. Kendall slapped it away, and Fields comes up with a loose ball. Numbers for the Panthers. Graves will lay it in. Graves was the guy who got him started in the second half last night in their comeback against Louisville.
I like the way Pittsburgh, they're not panicking. They're going to stay in this solid half-court man. They believe it's plenty of time to come back, and they've proven it, as you mentioned, in prior games. And they also don't want to expend the energy in the comeback by trying to press and do some things that are out of the ordinary.
Green short on the 3. There's the run that the Panthers had to begin the second half a night ago against Louisville. Graves, the major force offensively. Kendall led Gray a little bit too far. Well, Dixon's frustrated. He's going to bring in Sam Young in the front court. Gray's going to come out then.
Well, after that errant pass, Jamie Dixon stood up and tried to tell Levon Kendall to dribble the ball more to the baseline, because that's where Aaron Gray had his man locked. Instead, Kendall tried to throw it from that spot, and it was a bad angle.
And we saw Coach Dixon some supportive words and a pat on the back for Gray as he sits down.
And I told you, eventually they're going to have to go away from Aaron Gray. They can't waste the time to try to establish him.
The issue now is, can Kendall cover Hibbert? Remember, Hibbert had a couple of relatively easy baskets against Kendall late in the first half.
Well, he certainly can't cover him by himself. Pittsburgh didn't adjust in the first half to try to double on Hibbert or even triple him and force somebody else to beat him. We'll see if that's the case this time around.
Ewing's in the game for Summers now. Green slips the screen. Wallace for 3. Banks it home.
That's another use for that window.
May not have aimed for the square, but he found it. Jonathan Wallace doesn't need any help. 47% from beyond the arc. Foul on the drive. It'll be Sapp, I believe. Well, Georgetown has extended its halftime lead from 15 up to 18 here early in the second half.
The NCAA Women's Basketball Championship, March 17th through April.
Back here in New York, Championship Week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. This is the final of the Big East Championship presented by Aeropostale, and it is all Georgetown right now leading by 18. Pittsburgh is now in the final for the 6th time in 7 years. That's been done twice before in this league. Syracuse early, Connecticut more recently. That's a great accomplishment for the Panthers, but you talk to Jamie Dixon or any of their upperclassmen who have been through this before, they want to win one of these things. The last time Pittsburgh won was 2003. None of the players on this team were active on that team. Levon Kendall was redshirting. Jamie Dixon was an assistant coach at the time to Ben Howland. That's it.
Against this 2-3 zone, a lot of movement is what Pittsburgh needs. They will get some open shots right there. Good ball movement on that sweet spot. Levon Kendall, good passer. Now you see some extension of the defense, full court pressure.
Fields knocks down the three. Pittsburgh, a good three-point shooting team, 38% of the season as a group, although they faded toward the end of the season. Gray still on the bench. Kendall defending Hibbert. Nice pass. Green. And a foul by Kendall, set up on a great backdoor bounce pass from Wallace.
Well, we talked about without Aaron Gray, you got to find a way, particularly perimeter, a little inside out there from the elbow. Just finds Levance Fields for a straight on three. Bottom line for them, for Pittsburgh, is once again, it's going to be ball movement, cutters. Georgetown's going to be stuck in that 2-3 zone for a while to test the shooters from Pittsburgh.
40-24 now as we bring in Mark Jones.
Yeah, Dan, a moment ago you were talking about connections to that Pittsburgh 2003 Big East Tournament Championship team. There's another connection, that guy, Brandon Knight, who was the point guard on that team and now an assistant coach and video coordinator for the Pittsburgh program and the basketball crew. He is impressed on Levance Fields, the importance of being able to break through in this game tonight. He actually told him, said, hey, listen, I'm not going to make the trip if you guys don't win it, not just get to the finals.
You want to talk about a leader and a tough guy and a guy who got every ounce out of his ability. He was the heart and soul of that Pittsburgh team.
At Georgetown, I talked about them being in the 2-3. They changed their defense again and went man.
Three players hit the floor, and there's no foul call. The Panthers retain possession.
And you know how I feel about that, Dan. That's got to be a block or a charge, because look at the impact on the shooter. Doesn't really get a good shot off. Guys are making contact, hit the ground. It's got to be something.
And you could see Young, and again, it's just the presence of Hibbert inside. He turned at the last second while in the air lane. He kind of tried to angle himself away from Roy Hibbert. Just the presence of Hibbert affects so many shots.
That's right. Roy Hibbert only has one block, but innumerable changes. Once again, look at the drive right here. Somebody steps in. First of all, that is a block. Patrick Ewing Jr. stepped in as Young had left his feet. That's a block. And it's inexcusable that there was no call on that. If I'm Pittsburgh, I would go nuts.
The officials checked to see if Young's shot hit the rim, which it did, so a fresh shot clock. Well, with Gray on the bench and struggling when he's been in the game, who's going to be the go-to guy right now for Pittsburgh? As we have a foul on Ewing of the Hoyas. It's going to be Cook, Graves, Fields. Who's going to step up and be the man right now for the Panthers?
Well, the guy who's exhibited the most assertiveness has been Antonio Graves thus far. Every time he gets the ball, he's looking at the basket. He wants to be a threat.
Young driving right on Hibbert, lays it in with the left hand.
And if that's the matchup that Georgetown is going to allow by playing man-to-man, if I'm Pittsburgh, I continue to go at it. The mobility of Sam Young is going to present some issues for Roy Hibbert.
Aaron Gray heading to the scorer's table. Green. Boy, is he skilled.
Just an excellent ball fake. Get the defender in the air, and instead of trying to just draw the foul, he just went to the open lane to the basket and let the chips fall where they may.
As Mark Jones mentioned, John Thompson III told him Jeff Green's the smartest player he's ever coached. And when you've coached at Georgetown and Princeton, that's saying something.
Again, watch the ball fake to get Young off his feet. Now, a lot of guys would try to go up and jump into Young and draw the foul. Instead, Green just flows into the natural rhythm of that shot. His focus is on making the shot, not necessarily drawing the foul. That'll happen. Aaron Gray back in the ball game. But what that does, it destroys the mismatch that we saw with Sam Young and Roy Hibbert.
Ramon is checked in as well. So Young and Ramon and Graves, we've seen all three of them assertively go to the basket. Jeremiah Rivers has returned for Georgetown. That Doc in the house, sitting just a few rows behind us, fouled before the shot. And it'll be on Fields, I believe. No, it's Sam Young who's called for the foul. 15-point lead for the Hoyas. Exactly what it was at halftime.
Darren Gray in the game. Pittsburgh playing a little 2-3 zone. Trying to minimize the one-on-one situations that might get him in the foul trouble.
Green the miss on the running hook.
Good defense by Rivers, taking the baseline from Young.
Travel on Benjamin, and again in that possession, not a look towards Gray, not a setup in the post, almost a non-factor offensively. Championship week continues on ESPN tomorrow with a couple of conference championship games. NC State, Cinderella trying to get all the way into the dance if they can beat heavily favored at Carolina. Texas and Kansas in the Phillips 66 Big 12 championship a little bit later on this afternoon. Remember, NC State beat Carolina once during the season. Sidney Lowe's got that magic red jacket working for him right now, Len.
Kind of like the red shoes and Dorothy, but in the end, it comes down to a very confident North Carolina State team. The only thing that could probably hold them back, and it's a big if, is 4 games in 4 days. You know, North Carolina State has become known for that. Under Herb Sendek, they pulled another Cinderella to get to the finals, only to wind up losing because they ran out of gas.
Pittsburgh got a timeout call to retain possession. We'll go to a break here in New York. The Hoyas up by 15. Here's what they're playing for, the Big East Championship Trophy. Something that the Georgetown Hoyas have won 6 times in the history of this tournament. This is the 28th Big East Championship overall. Georgetown has won 6 of them, but none of them since 1989. The players on this team were in diapers the last time the Hoyas won the championship. This is the 4th time Georgetown has come in as the #1 seed every previous time. They've been the top seed in the regular season, Len. They have won the tournament as well.
But as you mentioned, a lot of dust collected on that last trophy.
John Thompson II, Big John, Patrick Ewing Sr., both here in attendance tonight, enjoying the resurgence of the Georgetown program. Keith Benjamin on an offensive rebound. A guy who's only getting 10, 12 minutes a game. Thought about transferring a couple of times, but has accepted his role. Energy guy, good defender off the bench.
And as athletic as they come, you saw him at 6'2", rise above the fray for that offensive rebound. That's why he's in the ball game. Try to make something happen with that athleticism.
Both big guys in the ball game right now. Jeremiah Rivers leaves the 3 a little bit short. Benjamin another rebound.
And it's so unusual to have a 6'2" guy playing on that back line.
Out of bounds to the Hoyas after the miss by Benjamin. Timeout on the floor here in New York. Well, how many teams will the Big East get into the big dance? We'll let you know our thoughts for what it's worth when we come back.
Step aside and mind your manners. Show respect for the champion banners. Come step up, cause we're ready to step on anybody in our way, and our game is Teflon.
And our thanks to Dem Boys and Rider University for all those great in-bumps we've been seeing for the last few days here at the Big East Championship in New York City. Well, how many teams is the Big East going to get into the big dance? Mr. Elmore's got 7 in, and those Mountaineers sweating it out tomorrow.
That's right. The definitely ends are crystallizing into rocks at the end of this championship week. And unfortunately for West Virginia, because of the losses of some of the favorites to win automatic bids that ultimately get into at-larges like Nevada, among others, West Virginia's kind of slip-sliding away.
Joe Lenardi, our bracketologist, who has been remarkably accurate in recent years, right now has West Virginia as one of his last 4 out. As of earlier today, he had Drexel, Old Dominion, Florida State, and Illinois as his last 4 in. But it has not been a good 48 hours or so for bubble teams. With Nevada losing and Xavier losing and so forth, that swallowed up a couple of bids. Green, with his 12th point of the night, had 30 last night against Notre Dame, a career high. Anxious Jamie Dixon looking on From the Pittsburgh bench as Green knocks down the second. Green knocked down 12 of 14 free throws last night as well. Although, as Mark Jones told us earlier, lamented his miss right at the end of the game that gave Russell Carter a chance to win it with a three in one of the classic games in the history of this tournament. Aaron Gray, his first field goal of the night.
And again, still a bit anxious, fumbled that pass initially. That should help him relax a little bit off the schneid. Now you can focus on trying to win the ball game.
Green long on the jumper. Pittsburgh looking to run. Benjamin's got the trailer in Fields. The kick to Ramon for three. Young getting up there with Hibbert, and Hibbert comes out of there with the ball, and a timeout is called. Great effort by Young, but Georgetown has possession as we head to Reese Davis for a Sports Center 30-30.
All right, Dan, in the NBA, the Kings have allowed Ron Artest to return to the team just 5 days after his arrest on the suspicion of domestic violence. Artest will be available to play for the Kings against the Nuggets on ABC tomorrow. And 8 bids have been claimed out of the 11 up for grabs today to the NCAA tournament. Some thrilling finishes that you can see on SportsCenter after the game or ESPN News all the time, guys.
Yeah, Reese, you showed it earlier. Folks, if you haven't seen the finish in the MAC tonight, you won't believe it when you do. It's the Big East Championship, the final. The Big East Championship presented by Aeropostale. Pittsburgh and Georgetown, a couple of highly ranked teams. Pitt, the number 3 seed. Georgetown, the number 1 seed. Dan Shulman, Len Elmore, Mark Jones. Here at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Always an electric atmosphere on this Saturday night in the Garden when they lower the lights for intros before the game starts. Both of these teams travel their fans well, and I think if you pin down most people before the beginning of this tournament, this was the matchup that probably most people would have expected. You can't leave Wallace open. As good a shooter as Georgetown has, maybe as good a shooter as there is in this league.
Well, that's a perfect example of the inside-out work, and Roy Hibbert had established the inside, and even though he's not in the ball game, Pitt cognizant of it, and just leaving guys open on the perimeter.
It was 15, the lead for Georgetown at halftime. It's 16 right now, past the midway point of the second half. Benjamin over Summers.
That's the case of Keith Benjamin trying to do it all by himself. You know, veteran guys have to understand you don't get it all back in one shot.
Wallace again. Timeout Pitt. A dominant performance thus far by the Hoyas.
Well, is there something that's not working for Georgetown? If it is, we can't see it. Again, we talked about the establishment of the inside game with Roy Hibbert and to some extent Jeff Green, and look how far back the Pitt defenders are. Levance Fields has to come out there leaping, and Ronald Ramon the same thing. They got to really close out instead of bodying up on the perimeter shooters as they tried to do in the beginning of the game, and Georgetown turned the tables and went inside. Now Pitt kind of backing off a little bit to protect their paint, and the perimeter shooters are just stepping up.
Don't forget
burying it.
Sorry, Len, don't forget this is all leading toward Selection Sunday. Join ESPN tomorrow for 3 shows dedicated to the men's field of 65 and a 5 Eastern preview the bracket on ESPNU Bracketology. Then at 6 Eastern, lay out the brackets as they're made public on SportsCenter at 7 Eastern. Back for more ESPNU Bracketology. Who's in, who's out. Find out Selection Sunday on ESPN. Both of these teams obviously will get a very good seed. Georgetown has won 14 of its last 15 games coming into tonight. Gray misses on the 12-footer. Another rebound for Green.
And Gray needed to turn around and see who was on him. Jesse Sapp and a bunch of smaller guys were behind him.
Graves comes down with a rebound after a couple of close-in chances for the Hoyas. Well, Georgetown so good defensively. It's going to stay at this end of the floor. John Cowell says it was deflected. Their guards are physical on the perimeter. Their front court guys are just so big, so long.
Well, they certainly are. And the thing about it is it's making it so much more difficult when you can't get the inside scoring that you're accustomed to as far as the Panthers are concerned. And then when guys are playing you tight, you know, you're looking for some options, and there isn't any.
Donovan Wallace commits the foul. Even with Hibbert 6'9", 6'8", 6'8" across the front line. And look at how active 6'8" is. Patrick Ewing Jr. nearly knocking it away. Ramon a miss.
And obviously without Aaron Gray playing Aaron Gray basketball, Georgetown dominating the boards on both ends.
A different story from the 2 regular season meetings. What a reverse. Jeff Green breaking everything out the last couple of nights here in New York. .8-0 run Georgetown. Cook trying to shoot over a guy way bigger than him. The miss from outside by Graves. Tyrell Biggs lays it in.
Well, you got to appreciate Antonio Graves is not giving up. He misses a shot, goes, gets his rebound. I mean, that's the kind of energy you need if you ever think about mounting a comeback.
It's a pretty proud group given the run they've had in recent years, but they have run into an outstanding performance by an outstanding Georgetown team here tonight. Barely got past a very good Notre Dame team in the semis last night, but Georgetown playing about as well as you'd imagine they can play here tonight.
Oh, just so sharp. Look at the back door right there. Again, the delivery by Jeff Green.
A 19-point lead for the Hoyas, 7.5 to go in the Big East Championship. Can the Hoyas get a 1 seed? Take a look when we get back.
Coast State, Reggie Theus, the coach there. They're up by 4, less than 6 minutes to go.
Well, Reese, very quietly, Reggie Theus and New Mexico State have had a terrific year and maybe on the verge of getting into the dance. We know both of these teams are going to the tournament. Here is what ESPN bracketologist Joe Lunardi, prior to the action today, was forecasting in terms of 1 seeds and 2 seeds, had both Georgetown and Pitt as 2 seeds. Len, if Georgetown wins this game as convincingly as they're leading right now, do you think they've got a chance to get a number 1?
Well, I do. I think the most vulnerable might be UCLA, even though they look like they're the second on that top line because they went out early. You know, you look at their numbers across the board, their wins against top 50 teams, etc. You know, they obviously have a strong case, but the fact that they went out early, the fact that a team like Georgetown can climb in, I think Florida may also be vulnerable. I think they've got to continue to win that SEC tournament tomorrow to be able to maintain it. Otherwise, Georgetown wins this, they have a very strong argument. Even though they lost to Old Dominion early, etc., I still think that the tournament selection committee is looking at who you are now. When you get on those upper echelon teams, that's where the subjective nature comes in, because everybody has a strong argument. You can argue one way or another.
One of the things that may work against them is how late the Big Ten and the Big 12 championship games are played tomorrow. But Gary Walters, the head of the NCAA Division I committee, the chair, has said sometimes, Len, they have to kind of get on with things and to make decisions even if they don't have all the information. And for an example, an Ohio State and Wisconsin game, it may end up not mattering all that much who wins and who loses because they might have to make a decision before the game is over.
Yeah, in that situation, I don't think it would matter, except maybe Ohio State might not be the number 1 throughout the field as opposed to staying on that top line, but they would maintain a number 1 seed.
Now let's take a look at Georgetown's resume on the season. 25-6. They've won 14 of 15. Came into this tournament as the number 1 seed. This all according to ESPN.com inside RPI. And there's no question they've got a very strong case. And if they win this game, you can't imagine them getting worse than a 2.
Right, and as I said, a team like UCLA, which is sitting at home right now, not even participating in their tournament finals, you know, might be the one that's vulnerable because you can make a stronger case for Georgetown. Look at who Georgetown had to go through to get to this spot.
Now, there still are too many teams up for discussion right now for the number 1s, with Kansas still playing, Carolina still playing, Ohio State and Wisconsin still playing, and Florida still playing. If enough of those teams, obviously somebody's going to lose in the Big Ten, but if enough of those teams take care of business, that may let Georgetown out. What about...
Well, the only thing that would work to Georgetown's detriment, I think, is the RPI of the Big East Conference itself.
Right.
The strength of that conference, which is obviously below the ACC. For maybe it's North Carolina that benefits if they win the ACC in comparison to UCLA being on that top line.
Graves drives and draws the foul. I would guess they would wind up with a 2, and I would guess if this game winds up something like this, Pittsburgh would probably wind up with a 3. Again, Joe Lunardi's that forecast was before the action today. Where do you see Pittsburgh fitting in if they lose this game?
Well, I would say a 3 is reasonable, and it's not unreasonable for them to be a 2. But in the end, 2, 3, play the game. Play the game. These guys are competitors. It won't matter. By the time you've gotten to the Sweet 16 level, you've got to play the elite teams anyway.
And that's the big story as we spin ahead from Pittsburgh's perspective. The Sweet 16 level. They have not gotten past the Sweet 16 in this great run they've had with Ben Howland and now Jamie Dixon. They've had a ton of success in the regular season and in the Big East, and they've had some tournament success, but they've not gone deeper than the Sweet 16.
And my theory is they've always played tremendous defense, but they've never had enough scoring power to really get them by. When you get to the elite teams, yeah, you can stop them, but if you can't put points on the board, you're not going any further, and that's been their issue. Last year they lose to Bradley, a very good Bradley team, and they were overpowered by Patrick O'Brien, the big guy in the middle.
Well, this is the best offensive team probably that Pittsburgh's had in this 6-7 year run, but boy, tonight Georgetown is just stymieing them. They've held them to 34 points, and Jamie Dixon doesn't know who to put into the game right now. There's the recent tournament experience for Pittsburgh. And I think, I don't know how you would feel about that. I think if people look back at the Pittsburgh teams of the last 6 years, say that most people would probably look at that Brandon Knight, Chevy, Troutman, Donatas, Zavascas group. Maybe if you had to pick one team that was the best of the bunch, maybe that team that won the Big East championship 4 years ago is the one you would think about.
Yeah, that was the team the last time I think they played. That was a situation where they had guys who could put points on the board to a certain extent, and that's why they went to the Sweet 16. They played a tremendous defense, but they could never get over the hump, again, from an offensive standpoint. And this team is a good scoring team, but they get a lot of their confidence and a lot of, their effectiveness from having Aaron Gray being effective. And when he's not effective, we see how they struggle.
And he has not been effective tonight, as made only one field goal. Graves with a steal and a foul on Summers.
I mean, without Aaron Graves to anchor the middle, to provide them an inside presence that opposing defenses have to respect, now a team, as good a defensive team as Georgetown, can now flare out and start guarding guys around the perimeter and make things real problematic for them. And no one wants to go into Aaron Gray anymore simply because he hasn't been effective. They've been trying to find other ways to get offense. It's just about out of time now for Pittsburgh.
Antonio Graves, a very disappointing night for him. It has to be, along with Kendall and Gray. They're all seniors. They've all been in this game. They've gotten this far before, but none of them has been an active player on a Big East tournament championship team, and it certainly doesn't look like it's going to happen tonight.
And sometimes when we looked at 6 out of 7 Big East finals, having only won one, it ultimately becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Those guys read the papers, they understand the history, but they can't let that get into their minds.
Graves' 3 won't go. Green the rebound. We've got little bits of paper or confetti that have come down on the floor.
A little premature.
Yeah.
They must have Georgetown colors on.
And certainly hope nobody slips on anything out there. Wallace wide open again. And a rare miss for him. Summers keeps it alive, saves it. And then a foul. It'll be on Hibbert. And Wallace a little slow to get up.
Well, in that scrum, somebody rolled up the back of Wallace's leg. But, this is going to tell you something about Georgetown and their character. Right there, his own man rolls up his leg. And that's a very dangerous situation, especially as big a guy as Roy Hibbert. Seems like Wallace is okay, maybe a little gingerly stepping on that foot. But the thing that is impressing me about Georgetown, with a 23-point lead, they're still diving on the floor.
Yep.
They're still going after it.
Yep. Ramon knocks down the first. You can see this would be a historically low point total in a Big East championship game, the pace that Pittsburgh is on right now. They only scored 17 points in the first half. Georgetown has not won the Big East Championship since 1989. Hibbert again. Yeah, he can relate. Patrick Ewing, an exclamation point from Roy Hibbert. He's got 18. And now the foul on Graves, on the driving Graves, committed by Hibbert. Under 4 to play. Georgetown heading toward the Big East Championship. Big fella making lots of noise tonight. We're here with the Big East Championship presented by Aeropostale, and really from the moment the game began, it's been all Georgetown Hoyas, and the biggest thing separating the two teams tonight, the play of the big men.
Well, again, you look at Aaron Gray's numbers, and it's important for us to note that it's not all Aaron Gray's fault. No, he didn't hold up his end of the bargain, but his teammates have to support him as well. And on the defensive end, Roy Hibbert was just a man among boys as Georgetown went to him early and often until he established himself inside. And it made it a lot easier for the rest of the Georgetown Hoyas.
Hibbert again contesting his shot and then bringing down the round. This will be the 7th Big East tournament title for Georgetown. That'll break a tie between the Hoyas and UConn for the most in league history. This is the 28th year of the Big East tournament. Even when it doesn't work out, he finds a way to make it work out. Well, Jeff Green was the regular season Big East Player of the Year. If you had a vote, Len, is he the tournament most outstanding player?
I'd say so. And again, Roy Hibbert having a tremendous day today, but that never would have happened without the exploits of Jeff Green yesterday against Notre Dame in critical situations. Time after time, Jeff Green delivered, got his team here. You know, he'll put up respectable numbers to justify being picked as the outstanding player in this tournament in this game. But overall, if you had to pick a guy that was so important to his team, you can't pick anybody but Jeff Green because he got him here.
And, you know, as much as they're not here, I bet you a guy who's probably feeling pretty good about things and about his team right now is Mike Bray at Notre Dame. The way they played Georgetown last night, and after the game, Mike Bray said, man, that was one heck of a game, wasn't it? He said, they're really, really good, and we only lost by 2, and the Irish have had their best year in a while. And, you know, this is a good Pittsburgh team that Georgetown is throttling here tonight, and Notre Dame's got to be excited about hearing their name called out on Selection Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. And again, Mike Bray, the Big East Coach of the Year, and well-deserved. You know, he said it right. I mean, that was a classic game yesterday. 2 heavyweights with different styles battling it out. And for Notre Dame, it came down to the 3-point shot. But, you know, some stars were established, and just in time. Sometimes you establish some new young stars at the end of your season, maybe the last game that you played.
Yep.
Well, Torrey Jackson's got a lot of basketball to play ahead of him, and he continues the way he did in the second half. Good gracious. I think Notre Dame can go a few rounds.
That's right. And Georgetown played much better than they did earlier in a couple of spells during the season. They've only lost 6 times, had a home loss to a good Old Dominion team that might find themselves in the tournament. That was back in the pre-conference portion of the schedule. They lost at home to Oregon. They lost at Duke in early December. And then in the league, lost at home to Villanova, lost at Pittsburgh, and lost at Syracuse. If you're looking to see how the Hoyas did outside the league, any big wins, they won at Vanderbilt. That's probably their most notable win.
And see, Dan, a lot of those arguments are made for teams that need to get in. And as far as I'm concerned, obviously Georgetown is in with a high seed. And when you're talking about going back to that top line versus the second line, still a lot of it for me is who are you today?
Right. Well, there's no question this is a much better team today than it was in November, December. They've won 14 out of 15, and at times they've been crushing people. And boy, it's been a long time since Georgetown Hoya fans got on their feet on a Saturday night in March here at Madison Square Garden. 18 years since the Hoyas won the Big East Championship. Green will shoot a couple, foul on Young. And with a couple of links to their glorious past here in the building tonight, Patrick Ewing is here. Big John Thompson is here. The Hoyas on the verge of winning the tournament championship.
When you had a look at that Pittsburgh bench, the only thing that can be said, you know, obviously they gave it a valiant effort. They got here. Bottom line, though, is it's time to regroup. And if I'm Jamie Dixon, my wheels are turning right now. Okay, where do we go from here? How do we get to where we want to be? And a lot of it has to do with Aaron Gray and establishing him. As you see Roy Hibbert come off to tremendous applause and congratulations from his coach. He's the one that set the tone for Georgetown and never looked back.
18 points and 11 rebounds tonight for Roy Hibbert. He got involved early tonight. Jeff Green will knock down a free throw. Now he'll come out. A rare display of emotion from John Thompson III, not to mention Green, Wallace, Hibbert. They're somewhat of a stoic bunch, but they've earned the right to smile here tonight.
I'll tell you what, again, we talk about Georgetown's high seed in the NCAA tournament, but winning this tournament, it's the pride.
Especially after a couple of hotly contested regular season games, each team winning on its own home court. And it's just been announced, at least to us internally, that Jeff Green has been named the most outstanding player of the Big East Championship. Quite a year for the juniors. He wins the Dave Gavitt trophies, the most outstanding player here in the tournament, to go along with his Big East regular season most outstanding player award.
That's a no-brainer.
Summers has fouled out. By the way, there is not a significant senior on this team. In this day and age, you can never be sure about who's coming back and who's not. But Green is a junior, Hibbert is a junior, Wallace is a junior.
And if I were to surmise, which is always a mistake.
But you're in too deep to back out now.
I would think that Roy Hibbert obviously would benefit greatly from another year of development. I mean, to be a total package big guy, you know, work on his footwork, get stronger, do some of the things, including passing, that he's showing flashes of brilliance in. And as far as Jeff Green, I mean, I'd love to see him come back. You know, that's the most important thing, to continue his personal growth as well as his development as a basketball player. But the siren call of the next level might be too much, considering all he's accomplished this year.
Patrick Ewing Jr., head cheerleader in his transfer year last year. Now contributor and cheerleader, whipping the Georgetown fans into a frenzy down at that end of the building.
Dad looking on saying, that's one thing I never did. In college, Patrick Ewing a little more stoic when it came to the crowd.
Kenny Izzo the save for Georgetown. Some of the deep reserves into the game right now for the Hoyas. Jamie Dixon still has regulars in for Pittsburgh.
Actually, Jamie getting a kick out of maybe the way the Georgetown guys, reserves, are coming down. Kind of really getting themselves revved up.
Yep. Now the crowd trying to get the walk-ons to shoot, trying to get somebody to shoot the ball. Doesn't matter. Georgetown dominant. 65-42 over Pittsburgh. The Hoyas are Big East champions. The tone was set early in this one, Len, and the Hoyas never really allowed Pittsburgh to threaten.
No, they didn't. And again, they went to their strengths. They went inside to Roy Hibbert. And Roy Hibbert challenged Aaron Gray. And Aaron Gray blinked. And as I said, you don't put all the blame on Aaron Gray, but in the end, it comes down to his team feeds off of him. He couldn't deliver. Roy Hibbert did and set the tone. And the rest is history.
We'll get ready for the postgame ceremony here in New York. Both of these teams will now turn their attention towards Selection Sunday to see where they're seated, who they're playing, where they're going. But for tonight, for Saturday night in New York, the Georgetown Hoyas are back to the top of the heap in the Big East for the first time in 18 years, regular season and tournament champions. Mark Jones is standing by with a winning coach.
Coach, congratulations. What does it mean to get your first one? Just 5 more to go with your dad in the stands. What does it mean to have him here?
We'll start counting later. It feels really good to get this one. It feels, I mean, it's unbelievable to win this year. It's great.
You held them to 42 points, the lowest point total in championship game history. How'd you do it?
Georgetown defense. That's all I need to say. Georgetown defense.
Which is what?
We made them difficult to get shots. We were fortunate. They missed a lot of shots they normally make.
Jeff Green and Roy Hibbert, a combined wonderful effort tonight. Is that what it's going to take down the line to get you guys to the next level in the upcoming tournament?
Next level. We just want to keep winning. We want to keep getting stops and getting.
What does it mean when you look over your shoulder? You see Patrick Ewing, you see Jerome Williams, you see the wonderful lineage here at Georgetown, and to win it here tonight.
It's special. It's special. I told our guys there's so few people with all the great players that we've had. There's so few teams that have won the regular season and won this conference tournament. And what this team just accomplished is special.
Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you.
Dan, back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you. Great job by our whole crew here this week. It's been a lot of fun to bring you the Big East Championship. Maybe not quite as much fun as those Hoya fans are having right now. They've waited a long time for this. 18 years to be exact. Georgetown pummels Pittsburgh tonight 65-42 to win the Big East title. Coming up next in Sports Center, we'll have a post-game extra over on ESPN News. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com. All week long, we've been asking the question, who would step up at the Big East Championship?
Your manners. Show respect for the champion banner.
For the first time since 1989, the Georgetown Hoyas have claimed the championship banner. For Len Elmore and Mark Jones, I'm Dan Schulman. Thanks for watching.